Drawing conclusions practice. Directions. Read the passages and answer questions. Be sure to highlight or underline to prove your answers. The case of the unused seatbelt. When Inspector Winter slammed on the brakes, Dr. Howe would have been pitched through the windshield but for his seatbelt. The reason for the inspector's sudden stop was horribly evident. A red sports car had come racing around the hairpin turn on the mountain road ahead. Out of control, the car had crashed through the guardrail. The impact didn't stop the car, but it flung the driver straight up. He seemed to hang in the air a moment before plunging out of sight. Hal and the inspector scrambled down the 200-foot precipice. The driver's body was a shattered mass of broken bones and blood. About 100 feet beyond, the sports car lay on its side, a total wreck. Strange, muttered the inspector, pointing to the seatbelt, obviously unused, which lay in the fresh blood that covered the driver's bucket seat. I doubt that even a seatbelt could have saved his life, said Hal. I'd better telephone the state police, said the inspector. It looks like one more traffic fatality of the year. Do you think he fell asleep at the wheel? No, said Hal. He was murdered. Why murder? 1. Why did Inspector Winter stop the car? A. He had forgotten something at home. B. A deer was crossing the road. C. There was an accident. D. Hal had said something interesting. 2. Read the sentences from the passage. A red sports car had come racing around the hairpin turn on the mountain road ahead. Out of control, the car had crashed through the guardrail. Based on the sentences, the reader can infer that A. The car had been speeding and that caused the accident. B. The car ran over ice in the road. C. Someone ran the car off the road. D. The driver jumped out of the car. 3. Where was the body of the driver when Hal and Inspector Winters went to investigate? A. About 100 feet from the sports car. B. In the car. C. In the river. D. On top of the inspector's car. 4. Based on the end of the story, what conclusion can you draw about why Hal thinks the victim was murdered? A. The victim suffered from a gunshot wound while driving the car. B. The brakes were slashed on the car and that made the accident happen. C. It was just his gut instinct from all of his years on the job. D. The victim had bled on the driver's seat, although he was thrown out of the window on impact. The case of the angry chef. Hawkins, the Marine, stared in amazement at Inspector Winters. I never heard of a restaurant called Pasquale's Pizzeria, he objected. I wasn't ever in it. I didn't rob it, and I certainly didn't shoot anybody. A Marine answering your description wounded the owner and cleaned out the cash register, said the inspector. You didn't know? Am I supposed to? Protested Hawkins. There must be several thousand Marines in this town. But only one was running along 42nd Street 5 minutes after the holdup, snapped the inspector. Sure I ran, retorted Hawkins. Look, I was standing idly in a doorway wondering what to do when this fat guy wearing a white apron and chef's hat comes charging at me. He's waving a butcher knife and he screams, he shot the boss! So I ran. You were innocent, but you ran? He had that big knife. Then what'd you do? The cop saw us and grabbed me. It wasn't any use to argue, so I went back to the restaurant with the cop and a couple of customers, said I might be the Marine who held up the place. They weren't sure. That night, Hal read the transcript of the questioning. Hawkins is your man, he said. No mistake about it. How did Hal know? 5. What does Inspector Winter suspect Hawkins of doing? A. Eating at Pasquale's Pizzeria. B. Robbing a bank. C. Robbing and shooting the owner of Pasquale's Pizzeria. D. Not reporting for duty at his base. 6. Read this section of the story. I never heard of a restaurant called Pasquale's Pizzeria, he objected. Wasn't ever in it, I didn't rob it, and I certainly didn't shoot anybody. What conclusion can the reader draw from this section of the story? A. He had never been to the restaurant before. B. Pasquale's Pizzeria is his favorite restaurant. C. He is not a thief. D. He wants to rob the restaurant. 7. What reason did Hankins give for running? A. He knew that he had been caught on the security camera. B. He was training for a marathon. C. There was a dog chasing him. D, he was scared because someone with a knife was shouting at him. 8. What conclusion can be drawn about why Hal knows Hankins is the killer? A, Hal was there when the robbery and shooting happened and saw Hankins. B, Hankins was caught on the security camera of the restaurant. C, Hankins said that he went back to the restaurant he had never heard of with the police officer. D, Hankins was being framed by Hal, who was the person that committed the robbery and shooting.